everyone, and welcome back to another live stream. For those of you who are new here, hi, my name is Susan. I am coming to you from the Wilcom offices in a slightly soggy and damp Sydney this morning. And for all of our regulars, welcome back. I can see that the chat is already chatting away, so I'm going to get to you guys in a moment. But I just wanted to say hi to all of our newcomers. So whether you're brand new to Hatch or just brand new to our live streams, welcome. We love doing these and being able to talk to you all directly and answer your questions. If you're brand new and this is your first time, please join in the chat. So you can join in the chat either on Facebook or on YouTube. And it's a really great way to get all of your questions answered and find out extra things and just meet other people as well. So thanks so much for coming. So I'm going to say hi to the chat. So far today, I've already seen that Lindy and Brendan are in. So thanks so much for joining us. We also have Beth coming in from the States, and Terry is in the Cotswolds this week. So enjoy your holiday there, Terry. It is a lovely part of the world. I saw Susan St. James popping up from Chicago, and I'm sure I've already missed some people because the chat's already moving quite quickly. So thanks so much for joining in, and be sure to, as I said, answer in the questions and join in the chat because it is a really fantastic way to get it all together. All right, and we've got Jamie, who is brand new, and they're coming in from Michigan. So thanks so much for joining us. We've got Gail coming in from South Australia as well. So it looks like we've got a really great representation across the world. We love hearing where you're from. So as you join the chat, please let me know. Today we have lots of things to talk about. We have a brand new Stitch Club challenge, which I'm going to talk you through and show you one of the early entries for. And then I thought, because we spoke last live stream about different types of applique, and there was a lot of people in the chat who had never done any applique before. So I've got a couple of different videos to show you of some different techniques that we can use in interpretations and why applique kind of works. And then I thought I'd take us back to fundamentals, and I'm going to show you how the stitch player actually works in Hatch and how I use it to check my designs before I take them through to the machine. So stitching out is always a super fundamental part of checking your design, but the stitch player actually helps you so much because it allows you to pick up on things before you get to that stitch out point. And it also saves you some resources too. So that's really great. So we're going to cover that today as well. We've got Nerily coming in from Myrtleford in Victoria. And we have Donna coming in from Hawaii. Hawaii always sounds like one of those places that is a beautiful sunshine all the time. But much like people think of that of Australia, I'm sure it's not. So I do hope you're having lovely weather though as well. And we have Kim coming in as well. Hi, Kim. Thanks so much for joining us as well. Applique is super fun, as Beth has just said in the chat. And I think one of the things to start thinking about applique is seeing all the different ways that you can actually use it. So last time we were here, we were talking about our new advanced applique features, which are in Hatch 4. So we have created a challenge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we're actually going to get to the challenge. So here we have a little link, and the mods are going to drop the link into the chat. If you are one of our Hatch subscribers, you would have got this in an EDM earlier this week as well. So what we're doing is we're challenging you all to take a look at this lesson in Hatch Academy and then use your skills and your interpretation to try out this design challenge. So you can jump onto the challenge links there. You can download the fish design, and then you can interpret it in any way that you see fit and that you would like. So you can combine stitches, you can combine fabrics, you can use different colors. It's all about how you can use the tools and how you want to interpret something. So it's a really great way for you to actually join in. And what you can do is you can actually then submit it. And so it becomes part of the challenge page so that more people can be inspired by what you are doing as well. So it's a great way to learn about the new tools inside the Hatch Academy there and what you can do with the new Hatch 4. If you don't have a Hatch 4, you could do some of these as regular applique as well, but it's also fun to see what you can do with the advanced applique because it really does just kind of expand those skills out in such a great way. So definitely take a look. If you haven't upgraded to Hatch 4, maybe this is going to be the nudge that will make you jump up to Hatch 4. But we want everyone to join in and just take a look at it and see how they can use applique, because quite a lot of us, if we're not using applique every day, or we haven't thought about it, or maybe we just haven't got there yet in our embroidery journey, it's a really nice way to jump in and have a look and see what it is. So definitely take a look at that challenge and see how you can join in. And I'm going to show you one of our wonderful regulars from our user group on Facebook. So if you haven't already joined, go join the user group on Facebook. There is a huge community there of people who are willing to help out with extra advice and information. And it's a really fun way to get information and see what people are designing. But one of our regulars there, her name is Barbara Bow. Barbara is fantastic. She has her own stall where she sells Hatch things in her local community, so things that she has created with Hatch, that is. But she always shares with us on the user group what she has been creating. She jumped in and took on the challenge, and this was her entry in. And I really love it because not only has she combined multiple different fabrics, but she's also used the new multi-blend tool inside of Hatch as well. So in Hatch 4, you'll get the new multi-blend tool and the advanced applique tools. And that's what Barbara's used here. And this is her interpretation of the design. So I really like how she's mixed the elements together and brought in different stitch types as well as different fabrics. And it really sort of shows the ways that you can take the design and make it your own. I also love that she's added in some really lovely little bubbles there for her fish as well. It's super, super cute and a really great interpretation of how that design can work. So I want to see what you can all do with your version of this design. So what we're going to do is this week we're going to deep dive into a few of the fundamental things of applique. Then in our next live stream, we're going to do a few more things on applique. And then our following one, I want to see all of your entries before that one. So that one is going to be our Stitch Club special. We're going to show you so many things that the Stitch Club has been working with. If you are not familiar with our Stitch Club, I like to talk about it as it's like a book club, but for embroidery. So we get together and we're going to chat about all of the things that you've been creating and using your Hatch for, and then all of the things that you might want to learn about, or like classes you could take in the Hatch Academy that are going to inspire you to do more with what you have. So definitely join in for Stitch Club, but one of the great ways to join is to join in for the challenge. So rightfully so, in the chat, lots of people have been very excited by seeing Barbara's beautiful design there. People are loving the colors. Lindy's saying how lovely the colors are. Susan St. James is there saying it's so pretty and she loves her fabric choices. They were some great fabric choices. I really love the gingham match with a floral. I am a sucker for matching stripes and checks with florals. I love that combination. And the multi-blend effect just really made it vibrant and stand out. So let's see what you can interpret. I want to see people doing this in all different kinds of ways and in all different types of styles, because you can take applique in so many different ways, because it all comes down to like the different stitches you use, but also the different fabrics. So let your imagination run wild, take the challenge, and let's see what we can all create as well. So I'm also being asked about some other lives. I'm going to come back to those questions in a little bit because we have a little bit of a plan of some different ones that we are going to be doing. But for the next few weeks, we're just sort of going to be focused a little bit on the applique so we can do the applique challenge, because it's super fun and we want people to be as interactive as possible as well. I also have some new people coming in. So hi to Gigi Becky, another one of our regulars. Hi. And we've got Patricia coming in from North Georgia as well. So welcome to you all. Like I said, if you're joining in, please let us know where you are coming from. So one of the things I thought I would show this week is for people who maybe haven't done much applique before and you want to kind of dive into it. Now, I'm going to show you a design that I actually did before hatch for. So it's done as a regular applique, and it's actually the fan dress. So quite often in these live streams, I'm always wearing something that's embroidered. I have a navy dress which has little fans on it. Those are all applique. So I'm actually going to show you how I created that and how I actually stitched it out so that we can talk through some of the ways you can look at your stitch out to improve the quality of your applique, but also if you've never done applique before, what are the steps you're going to do? And Taylor and Drew have just said that they are going to join the challenge. So that's fantastic. Can't wait to see what you are going to do. All right, let's take a look at some of the things that we can do with applique. So here is my original fan design. So I drew this out originally, and because it was a very complicated design that I didn't want to cut by hand, here I am actually putting it through a scan and cut. You can use any kind of cut machine. We happen to have a scan and cut here, so that's a Brother scan and cut. And what I've done here is this is a quilting weight cotton, and it has a double-sided stabilizer, so sticky stabilizer. So one side gets ironed to the fabric, and then we're going to put it through the scan and cut for the cutter to actually cut it out. So what I did was, after I have done the design inside of Hatch, I've then exported the SVG and tiled it so that I can cut out as many as possible from my fabric so that I can go through. So in the particular dress, I have, I think, 5 different fabrics. I've just forgotten what the word is for less than a fat quarter. Whatever half a fat quarter amount of fabric is, I'm so sorry, that's just completely escaped my mind. I think it's a fat 8. I had an 1/8 of each one, and I just cut them out to make it work. I had a little bit of leftovers, but I also needed some for testing, so that is okay as well. So here the cutter is just cutting it out, and it's really great because it actually looks like it's not doing anything because the cutting is so precise. Occasionally, if you don't get it stuck down to the board very well, so the board is sticky for anyone who hasn't used a cutter before, it's actually a sticky board that I'm sticking it to. So you want to make sure it's fully pressed down. If it's not fully pressed down, as it goes through the rollers of the machine, it can buckle your fabric, at which point you have to go abort, and hit the stop button and pull it out. So I've definitely learned to stick it down very, very flat. I'm not using any extra adhesive here. It is just the stickiness of the mat pushed down. And as I said, my fabric is stabilized with a double-sided interfacing there as well. So with the double-sided ones, you have one that irons to your fabric, and then you have one that pulls away when you are ready. So it doesn't look like anything's happened, but when I actually pull away here, you're going to see all of the little shapes ready to go. Now, is a cutter necessary for applique? No, it is not. But if you are doing very small, very precise things, or things that you are going to replicate a lot. So we know a lot of you are doing a lot of things for small business, where you're going to be replicating a lot of things. Hand cutting each time is kind of tricky. Here I have done my tack down stitch on my machine, and this is my little tiny iron. So I was telling everyone about my little tiny iron last week. It fits inside of my hoop. It's actually a little quilting iron, and it's a fabulous way to actually stick down my design so that it doesn't move. I really like using it. And then I've popped it in underneath my machine, and you can see that I have done my tack down stitches and then my finish stitches as well. So a couple of different steps in there, but what I wanted to try and talk about was the fact that using the cutter made my designs very precisely cut out. It also sped the process up. So I was covering an entire dress, which has a quite big skirt on it. So that was a lot of kind of pieces there. Yes, I totally could have put down my placement stitch, put on my fabric, run my next stitch, and then cut away my fabric before running my complete tack down stitches and then my satin stitches. I totally could have done that, but I also knew that I was probably looking at doing a 40 or 50 different placements of this, and I knew that that would just slow me down so much. So I thought using the double-sided interfacing so that I could iron the design onto my actual fabric as I went would just speed the whole process up and make the entire covering of, in my case, a dress a lot easier as well. So I've got some questions in the chat. So I'm going to go to the chat and see what people are asking about. So it is a fact. Thank you to the chat. I just completely lost that out of my head as I was talking. So Beth's asking, if I export the cut lines to the scan and cut, do I need to resize it at all? I do not resize at all. So when you actually do it inside of Hatch, you can actually select and export to SVG, and there's a drop-down menu that will turn up that will show you the different points there. I keep it exactly the same. One of the things you have to remember, though, is which direction things are facing. So I actually flipped mine so that I would cut on the right side of the fabric. So right side of the fabric facing up, so that when it's stuck down to the actual fabric, it would make it work. Some people always place their fabric face down in order to cut, which means it would be the reverse of your actual design. So just think about which way you place your fabric in terms of cutting so that you don't end up with something reversed on that. And when you go to tiling it, if you're using, say, the software that's built into the scan and cut, just be really careful about it if you're trying to fussy cut or if you've got a design which can only go one direction. Just keep an eye out on directional things like that. But that's going to be specific to you, your design, and your fabric. So it's all those kind of things tie in together there for you as well. Lindy's suggesting that a roller like you use for block printing, for linoleum block printing, is really good for smoothing down the fabric. Yes, they are. You can also get little tiny rollers, which we use in dressmaking. If we're using heavyweight fabrics like wools and things like that, you can get little rollers which press out your seams. Those work really well as well. I had none of those tools, so I was just using my hands. So that works too as well. And Neryl's asking, do I need to enlarge the applique piece in the cutter? No, you don't. It will cut exactly to the outline of your actual SVG. What you do have to think about is how big coverage you have of your actual applique stitches. So those last stitches that go off, you have to, so that normally a satin stitch, but in the new advanced applique, you can also do a motif stitch as well. In the motif stitch ones, in the advanced applique, it will actually change your tack down stitches and your holding stitches underneath to mimic or match what is ever the motif that you've done. So it won't be as big, say, as if you do a satin stitch. So if you are using a motif edging in the new advanced applique, and you're also looking to cut, what I would also be looking at is the openness of the weave of my fabric and how much overlap I need to get. So say you're going to use something like a linen or a really lightweight cotton, those fibers are going to start to break apart on the edges, even if you cut them very precisely with a cutting tool. So if you then don't have many stitches to cover over those edges because you are using a beautiful motif edge, it's all things to think about. In that case, if that's what I wanted to do and I really wanted to use that linen and I wanted to use a motif, I would actually use a regular iron-on stabilizer on the back of my fabric to just sneakily hold that fabric in place a little bit more. You're not going to see it in your applique. You're not going to see it on the outside of the garment or the design or whatever you're doing, but it's going to hold that fabric slightly more rigid so that when that stitching down happens, it will look beautiful and perfect, and then you're ready to go. So I always think with applique, you have to think about it in levels. So I'm going to do my placement stitch, and then I'm going to place down my fabric. What am I doing to my fabric to make sure my fabric doesn't move, doesn't ripple, doesn't move in terms of when it's stitching, but also then, in my case, because I'm often making so many garments, how's it not going to move when I put it through the washing machine a lot and things like that. So think about the different levels that you're going to go through too. If you've got extra questions about that, throw them in the chat and we'll get through them today as well. All right, some other extra questions. Karen's coming in from St. Augustine. She's saying, sorry, she's late. Welcome. We're so glad you made it in any way. That's fantastic. And Lindy's just saying that, yes, actual size for your SVG, it's straight through to your cutting machine is perfect. So what I wanted to show you next was a way that you can think about how you can interpret your designs to become an applique. So this next piece is actually a great piece that Maya, our head digitizer, did for me yesterday, I think it was. She's always so fast at doing things, and it's such a joy to just be like, oh, so I'm thinking about this, and then next thing it's on your desk because she will just work through it so quickly. So that's always a delight. But what Mai has actually done is she has done interpretations of a design. So let's take a look at what Mai has created for us. So here you'll see inside of Hatch, you'll see a lovely bunny design. This bunny is actually one of our workmates here. So hi to Yuki and her lovely bunny. We'd used this bunny in Mother's Day designs last year, and we did it as an outline stitch. But here, what Mai has done is taken the same artwork and has done 3 interpretations of how you can use the same design and get different looks for it. So I'm going to run the little stitch player so that I can talk through this as we go. So the first interpretation is a red work sort of style happening here. And you can see that she's definitely used red work on it because of the way it is stitching out, because it is sort of pathed it all together. So it is using the least amount of trims and cuts as possible. And it has a lovely little, I think it's a back stitch that she has used to go through and actually outline the designs. This type of red work design is perfect if you just want line work. Great if you need to keep your stitch count down, and it's very fast to stitch out. So if you're making things for like a small production run there, that makes it very easy because it is both light in stitches and light in terms of time as well. And I've just seen that the team has dropped the blog piece in there for that, and you can access the design. The second interpretation that Mai has done is the same design, but with a satin stitch outline. So with the satin stitch outline, you can see that there is more underlay going in through there. So we quite often have a center run followed by a zigzag with the satin stitch going over top. Doing it this way means that we have really, really lovely, thick kind of satin stitches. It would make for a very bold kind of design and look much kind of stronger than the red work design that we did first. It would also be a great interpretation if you then want to put it onto, say, fabric that's a little bit more plush. So maybe you're going to put it onto like a sweater or a jumper or something where you're going to be dealing with a little bit more, or you just want a different look, because sometimes we want a thin outline, sometimes we want a thick outline. And that's one of the great things about embroidery, is that we can digitize it to be whatever we look for that as well. So obviously, when we're using a satin stitch and we have increased the amount of underlay that is going in there with that center run and the zigzag, it is going to take slightly longer to run out on your machines. We've also increased the size of the bunny just to make sure that as we show this as a demonstration, it made it a little bit easier for you to all see on screen as well. So it's, like I said, the exact same artwork. We've just interpreted, or Mai has actually interpreted it in a different way. And now she's done a third interpretation. You can see that the fabrics have already appeared inside the stitch player. Obviously, they would be added at different points in the actual making of the piece, but the way they appear in the stitch player is that they appear all at once. So we have a white panel of fabric, we have a brown panel of fabric, and then we have grey for his face and hind leg there as well. Here we've done it as an applique, and we've used the advanced applique tools, which has allowed us to break those parts apart. When you do an applique, you have your placement line. You can then lay your fabrics down. They're going to then do a tack down stitch, normally a zigzag, but like I said, the advanced applique tools will actually work it out to be slightly different if you're using a motif edging for that as well. And then it covers it with a satin stitch. So as we've moved through the different interpretations of the same design, you can see that you can actually get quite a different look. And if you think about the way that the applique one could look, like how cute would it be if it was different types of fur? So he would be fuzzy in different colors of fur. Or you could use some which was like long pile fur for like his ears, and maybe like a really beautiful felt, or the underside of some sweatshirting to make it fuzzy. You could interpret it with so many different fabrics. So you could bring texture into it more with your fabrics. You could change up the colors to match like your decor if you were doing it for Easter, and maybe your Easter theme was some lovely spring florals. Then you could do him with floral flowers in it. There are so many ways you could actually interpret the design. And yet we've done the same artwork 3 different ways. But then when you get to applique, it's like an explosion of ideas of what you could actually create, because now you've got more elements that you can play with. And as we go through, you'll notice like his eyes are still stitching out, and then his little nose in different stitches as well. So always remember that you can combine different types of stitches on top of your applique as well, so that you can add stitches in different layers along the way. So I thought that was a really great interpretation of taking one artwork and then working your way through how you can actually create it in many different types of styles of embroidery, and then all the way through into applique. And that's what we want to challenge you to do in our challenge. So we have given you a fish design to work, so you don't even have to go find some artwork, because I know for some of you, trying to find the artwork is a sticking point. You're like, I have the idea, but I don't have the art. So we've given you the artwork, and we'd love to see your interpretations of that as well. So definitely go to the challenge, grab that artwork and challenge away and see what you can actually do as well. All right, so there's some questions in the chat. So I'm going to go and answer the questions in the chat before we show some more things as well. So Taylor and Drew are asking, how do they get on the email list for the Stitch Club? So the email list for Stitch Club is our regular Hatch email newsletter. So if you're a user, subscriber of the newsletter, you will actually get those ones for you coming through. We normally let you know when the new Stitch Club challenge is up. So you would have got one last week about the actual challenge, and then we'll let you know when the lives are coming up for Stitch Club as well. For any of the lives, one of the great ways to keep informed of when they're coming up is if you are a subscriber to our YouTube channel, you can subscribe, but you can also click the little bell there. That little bell icon will tell you when anything new has been released, but for live streams, it will actually tell you when the live stream is coming up in your time zone, which is super handy for anyone who, like me, is always terrible with time zones, and I can never remember when someone asks me where it is in a different part of the world. So definitely do that if you struggle with your time zones. It's a great way to keep in front of things as well. Trish is asking about the details on my little mini iron. I don't know what brand it is, to be fair. It is a little tiny mini iron. I got it when I went to a quilting convention one time. It was a door freebie. And I must say, at the first, I was like, oh, I'm not going to use this. And then I've realized that it fits inside my hoop. And now I use it all of the time for applique. And it's really fantastic. It is a little bit light, a little bit tiny if you are using it to, iron the whole washing pile, but it is great as a travel iron as well. I'm fairly sure most of the big brands in terms of quilting things would have it. I do know that it comes with a steam and a non-steam option for most of those ones. Mine's the non-steam one. It's great. But yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know what the brand is there as well. Beth's asking if there are motifs that are preferable to use for applique. No, that comes down to preference, really, and the style and look that you are after. I would definitely go in there and have a look and try them out and stitch them. I would suggest that if you are testing with your applique and a motif, I would definitely check and see how lightweight and open your fabric is. The denser you can get, the better. And by denseness, I mean like a quilting cotton is like perfect for that in terms of experimenting with it, because it's nicely tightly woven. It's not going to fray too much. It's really great to use on those motif edges. If I was trying to use like a lightweight linen, like I said, which is going to fray a lot, then I think you would have to use a denser type of motif. But I think with a motif, you want to kind of keep things light and airy. So definitely experiment, but I think a quilting cotton would be a perfect kind of weight for that as well. Oh, sorry, I was just reading in the chat and I was like, there's a brand new applique page going to public today. So the chat is actually getting a little sneak peek of that right now. So definitely check that one out as well. Yeah, so sorry, was my squinty reading there trying to figure out what is happening as that. So they definitely has it as well. In the chat, another Susan is saying Cricut also has a tiny iron as well. They have a tiny iron and they have a little tiny heat press thing as well. I don't know if that has heat temperatures on it. One thing I would say is you need an iron that heats to a temperature that would adhere an interfacing or a stabilizer that is like a sticky back, like an iron-on stabilizer. So if it's too light a press, so if it's just a lightweight heat press, it may not adhere those super well. So that would be the only thing that I would check on that as well. All right, looks like sneak peeks are happening in there as well. And Brendan has dropped in, there is the Prim Mini Steam Iron as well. I have a lot of Prim products. They're fantastic quality. So that's a really great one to go check out as well. So Neryl's saying she likes to secure her satin stitches with a cross stitch as well. And she's asking, is there a way to save the combination and do both at the same time, as her cross stitch is always offset? I'm trying to figure out what you mean there. So you've done your placement stitch and you've done your tack down. Do you then do a cross stitch and then your satin stitch on top? Because if that's the way you want to do it and you want to do offsets, you could do that, but you may have to break some of the designs apart. Whenever you're working with applique, once you've converted something to applique or when you've converted something to advanced applique, once you break it apart, you then can't re-edit it as an applique. You then have to edit each section individually. So if you're getting to that, do it right at the end before you've done, and make sure you've done everything else beforehand as well. Neryl has said, yes, that is correct. So yes, you could edit everything you want. So digitize and edit as much as you want. Once you get right to the end, you could then break apart and then individually edit each layer. Which leaves me to a really great thing. So when I think about appliques, I think about them in layers. The way I think about it is I think about my placement line, then I'm going to put my fabric in, and then I'm going to have my tack down, then I'm going to have my cover stitches. And in between some of these layers, maybe I'm adding in some different textures. So maybe I'm adding in some motifs, maybe I'm adding in some multi-blend. So what I'll do is I will design up and do my complete applique. And then if I need to, I will break it apart and then I will add things in on my layers. So obviously your object properties list is really great for this. But one of the things I find super useful at this point or at any point using my appliques is I really like using the stitch player so that I can check and see that different colors have been attached to different pieces, so that I can know that my tack down stitch is going to be, so my placement stitch will be purple, and then my tack down is going to be yellow, and then my satin stitch is going to be blue, so that when I'm visually seeing it, I can see it through. Now, if you do have Hatch 4, don't forget, if your machine accepts it, you now have a stop function as well. So if you're working on a multi-needle that accepts a stop function, you can actually get your machine to stop so that you can add in things like your fabric, and your machine will pause for you. Obviously, if you're on a single needle machine, you make that pause by changing to a different color. That stop function will only work if your machine is compatible to stop function. So read your machine manual to check it and see if that one works for you as well. So keep that in mind. But one of the things I use the stitch player to work this out. So what you'll actually see with the stitch player is how the different ones is. So what I've done is I've pulled it from the Academy so that you can see the stitch player, and Lindy's going to talk us through how it works and how we can use it to check designs. There's a really great 12 ways to check an embroidery design before you go through on to export your design. And it's a really great little one inside the Academy that actually teaches you how to do a checklist. So let's take a look at the stitch player, and then we're going to come back to the chat.
The Stitch Player is an incredibly useful tool and one I rely on continually. What it does is a virtual on-screen sew-out of your design that lets you see potential problems so that you can fix them before sending the design to your embroidery machine. If you're a more advanced embroiderer with an understanding of the anatomy of an embroidery design and how stitches affect various fabrics, you can do a preliminary virtual test sew on the screen to see if your design is a good match for your fabric. And then, if not, you can adjust the stitch properties in Composer or Digitizer. Now, this skill is attained from watching and paying attention to your embroidery machine while it stitches a wide range of designs on a wide range of fabrics. It's not an instant process. When you're first getting started in embroidery, the Stitch Player can help you learn more about embroidery by watching how designs from good sources are constructed. If you want to learn to digitize, watching designs sew is a great way to understand how designs are built. This design was digitized using just fonts, which we can see from the Objects Docker because they all have this little A beside them. Let's see how it sews. To run the stitch player, click on its icon on the toolbar. I'm going to pause it for a moment so we can look at the controls. On the far left is a visual timeline by color. Here you can see at a glance the color order and the relative amount of stitches in each color block. It's easy to see this design is mostly red. As you hover over a block, you can actually see what thread color is assigned to it. This design has no repeated colors. Repeated colors aren't necessarily bad and may in fact be necessary to maintain registration or due to layering of colors in the design. Registration is the alignment of all areas during stitching. Just because things line up perfectly on screen doesn't mean they'll sew that way. You can use the slider to move through your design quickly. Now, did you see that? Let me back up a moment. This first line stitched from left to right, just like we read and write. But the second line is stitching what we would say is backwards. It's stitching right to left. Now, there are important reasons why we might want to do this in embroidery, and we'll cover those when we get to the lessons on lettering. But for now, just know that just because we read right to left and we write right to left doesn't mean we have to embroider our letters that way. This group of tools will help us navigate through the design. If I go back a color, I'll go back to the beginning. I can advance through the design by color. I use these a lot. You can stitch backwards if you want. And I'm going to speed it up so we can actually see what it's doing. See how it's stitching backwards? Don't you wish you had this on your sewing machine? And if I go back to the beginning, I can just run it all the way through. I'll just click play. You can slow things down when you get to some point that you need to see things a little bit better, or you can speed it up. The stitch player is available in all levels of hatch and is useful to all levels of embroiderers. The more advanced you become, the more information you'll be able to get from the stitch player. You may detect some inefficiencies to correct, or you may notice that some areas need their stitch properties adjusted. The stitch player is especially useful on designs that you've modified. Let's exit out of this. I'll click the stop button. Here's the design that we customized in a previous lesson. If we run the stitch player on this butterfly, and we'll just speed it up really fast, we can see that we do have duplicated colors. Now in Composer and Digitizer, we can see that here in the Object Sequence bar. In Organizer and Personalizer, we can see that through the thread colors here. Now there are ways, even in Composer and Personalizer, where we can optimize this, and we'll talk about those in another video as well. Running the stitch player before the final save and export is simply a good habit to form and can save you time, supplies, and frustration if you stitch a design that wasn't quite ready for prime time. I do want to caution you about relying on the stitch player as a replacement for test sewing. Although it can show us how the design will stitch, it can't show us how the design will affect the fabric, nor simulate any sewing distortions that occur from sewing. A good embroiderer test sews their designs to verify not only the design, but the thread colors, needle choices, stabilizers, and machine settings, and machine tensions.
So that was a really great explanation of how you can use the stitch player to actually check your designs before you even get to your machine. And I think that it's a really great way to reinforce to all of us that use the tools that are built in Hatch to make you a better digitizer and a better embroiderer, because they exist. So if you can learn how to use them and build them into your little workflow, it'll actually help you figure things out along the way so that you can actually interpret things in many different ways. And I find that when I'm watching the stitch player, I'll quite often find out that, oh, I've missed that layer, or I've missed that stitch, or maybe I want to add in an extra node in that corner so it really holds down that corner. So I really like using it. I wanted to show it today because I think when we're talking about applique, and there's so many elements to those designs, that it's just a really fantastic way for us to learn and use it in a different way. So wanted to show that today, so I was really glad for that. We're going to be finishing up soon, but let's go back to the chat. Definitely ask all of your questions and let's see how many of them we can get through. So while we were watching that, so we had a couple of extra ones in there. So Bill suggested using Heat and Bond, which is a brand name product that you can use, which is a double-sided interfacing for applique. It's fantastic. The same product is available under many different brand names, but I really like it. That's what you saw me using a version of when doing my fan applique as well, because I like that it makes it a little bit easier to manipulate and hold my fabric. Even if I'm going to hand cut my applique, sometimes I will block fuse my actual piece of fabric, lay it in, and I am always trying to like squish it into use up the smallest amount of fabric as possible. I will then cut it back and then just iron the section that I have done. So you can use it in a couple of different ways like that as well. Bill's also asked how to use the stop button. So what you'll find with the stop button is you can insert the stop button after you've done a function. Say you want to put in your fabric and you need your machine to stop. So what I'm thinking I might do is I might actually record one of our machines doing this so you can actually see the stop function in action. And I'm going to try and have that for you next live stream as well. So we'll record how we do it inside of Hatch, and then we'll also do it on the machine so you can see it. But like I said, the stop function only works if your machine accepts stop functions. So you're going to have to check your manuals and check on that, because not all machines do. And that's a function of the machine and not a function of Hatch. So definitely read up on your manuals before we show that one in our next live stream as well. Yeah, and Susan St. James is saying she's definitely caught mistakes by running the player. I think it's a super worthwhile thing to do for every design. And I like being able to run it and check it before we go to actual stitching out, because no one wants to waste fabric and stabilizer and thread and time in stitching out. So if we can catch it beforehand, that's fantastic. But always remember, stitching out is a really important part of the whole thing as well. All right, I think I've got all of the questions so far. I'm just going to have a little bit of a quick slide back and have a look as we go. So the team has dropped a sneak peek for a brand new page going live today, which is all about applique. It's going to be on the Hatch website, so you can definitely check that out as well. Check out the challenge as well. I want to try and see as many people entering the challenge as possible, because I want to see how you're going to interpret that artwork and do your design. So like I said, we have this live stream, which is going to end soon. And then we're going to have another one in 2 weeks' time, which is going to be more applique things and possibly some other things too, because who knows what we'll have done before then that we can talk about. We always love showing off our new things. And then the one after that is going to be our Stitch Club. So we'll be all ready for Stitch Club. So you've got kind of like a good 4 weeks to interpret, think about ideas, enter multiple times if you would like to. There's no reason to say you can't enter multiple times as well. I think I've got everything. Karen's asking, why are there no cap hoops listed in the hoop section? My first question would be, sometimes with hoops, you have to select the brand of your machine first. So say Brother, and then choose your hoop. So check to see if that's what you've done first. That would be my first question for it as well. One of the other mods might have another answer for that, but normally that's the one as well. Oh, Anthony's running late. Sorry, Anthony, we're almost finished up. So we won't be here for much longer, but we'll try to do. Someone's saying the tote bag on the new page is cute. I don't even know what you're looking at, but I'm going to assure that it is. I didn't get to see the new page before it went live because I was busy prepping for our live stream. So we will see there as well. Oh, Karen is saying that her machine is not listed for her cap hoops, which is why I'm guessing there is not ones in there. You can also create a custom hoop as well. So the instructions on how to create a custom hoop are also in the Academy there as well. if you get stuck with things like that, we also have the brand new user guide is now available as well. So with the user guide, it is a print on demand from Amazon. Be sure to order it from the Amazon in your country. If you try and order it from a different country, you will get charged a huge amount of shipping. So be sure to get it from your own country. It is quite a hefty beast. I got my version this week. So it is very beautiful, filled with lots of information. So you can definitely order that one if you are someone who loves learning from a book as well. So keep that one in mind. And then, so Kim has just dropped in a link for Bill about how to do the stop in the academy as well. So thank you so much, Kim, for dropping that one in as well. And Bill's advocating that if your machine's not listed, it's surely a chance to just buy more machines, which, you know, fair. Who doesn't want more machines? That's always a really fantastic idea to do. All right, one last thing before I go for the week. For anyone who is in Sydney, coming to Sydney, wants to plan a trip to the other side of the world, you can come visit us at the upcoming Craft and Quilt Show here in Sydney. It's coming up in July. It's going to be at the International Convention Centre at Darling Harbour. The whole Hatch team will be there. So you can come and see us. I'll have more information coming to you on this in the next couple of weeks. But if you are going to be around, you can come say hi and ask all of your questions in person. So we would love to see you there. If you are someone who is a little shy in real life, that is fine. Just come say hi, and we would love to chat to you. I know it's tough for some people to come up to the stand and be like, hi. It's a little bit intimidating sometimes. Please, we are not scary people. You can come say hi and ask all of your questions, and we love seeing you all there. So if you're planning a trip, definitely include that in there as well as thanks. All right, so the team is saying that if you like the cute bag on the new page, there is also instructions on how to make that in the blog there as well. Anthony is asking if we are going to be there on the Saturday. The team will be there on the Saturday. I personally will not be there on the Saturday, unfortunately. I have a clashing of events and I cannot make the Saturday, but I will be there the other day. The team will be there the rest of the time as well. It'll just be me that's missing on the Saturday. Oh, great. We're going to see Kylie. Kylie's going to come in, so that's fantastic. The team is dropping in links for the Craft and Quilt Fair there as well. So, yeah, hopefully we will see everyone there. Okay, I think that's everything for this week. As always, if you have more questions, please jump into our user group on Facebook and send us messages. Tag us in everything across all the social medias. I love seeing what people are doing. This week, we've had everything from people creating like crazy quilts with lots of characters to cosplay to patches and badges. It's been fantastic. So definitely jump in and show off what you have been doing by tagging us on social media, and definitely join in the Applique challenge. We'll be back again, not next week, but the week after with more things live. All right, I'll see you all then. Have a great time, everyone.